Welcome back, my dear friends. So, as you recall from last time, Raven's community had gone up into the mountains to try to understand why they were feeling out of peace or uncomfortable. That's where we'll begin with part 10. Raven's community enjoyed the brisk air and higher vibration of the mountains. One day, one of the boys brought Raven a clear, sharp, long stone that glistened in the sunlight. She immediately noticed an energy from the stone as she held it. "Where did you find this?" Raven asked. "It was down in a valley about half a day's journey away. I was exploring some caves with my friends, and the sunlight through a crack hit this and created colors." "Let me show you," said the boy as he held the crystal in such a way that the reflected light created a rainbow of color. "Oh," sighed Raven, and took the stone back from the boy. "Show me the caves where you found this." A small group of people followed Raven and the boy to the cave, and Brave One carefully stalked them from behind. One of the children cried, "Look over here. There must have been other people here because there is a woven mat on the ground." Everyone went over to the place where the mat was. Raven then found a woven bracelet next to it. Her mind remembered the woven bracelet and the young girl that was going to be sacrificed long ago at the great mound. Could it be? Have I found the people with the sacred feathers? She wondered. She asked a few trusted friends to search the area without involving the rest of the community. In Keymyu's community, Crow Wolf had been meditating in the mountains, seeking an answer to questions his young friends were asking him. He did not feel experienced enough to answer them, and his meditation this morning only brought peace, not answers. Returning to the glistening valley, he searched for his father. Sunwalker was digging a large hole about as deep as he was tall. "What are you doing?" inquired Crow Wolf. Sunwalker replied, "Keymyu has asked me to dig an area that is as deep as a man is tall and wide enough for a garden. She says that she feels some strong winds are coming, which will blow away our garden if it is above the ground. With the garden lower than the winds, it will be safer," he continued. "The idea seemed strange to me at first, but Keymyu's usually correct, so who am I to question?" He smiled at his son. "Father," began Crow Wolf, "would you have a few minutes to answer a question that the boys my age have been asking, but I do not know how to answer?" "Of course," replied Sunwalker as he dusted off a large rock and sat down. "I have heard it said," began Crow Wolf, "that the sacred ones in the past could rise above the desire for sex. Is that correct? And if they did, are we supposed to do that also? The boys have been having strong desires for mating and cannot clear their minds of it." Sunwalker laughed. "I remember those feelings well. You see, my son, humans have been designed to have natural feelings of wanting to mate when their bodies have fully matured and a woman is able to begin a baby in her body. As people grow older, their bodies become weaker, and nature begins to diminish the desire for mating." He continued, "What the spiritual teachers of the past neglected to tell the people was that they knew how to meditate. And the more one meditates, the more one lessens the attachment to the physical senses. The less attachment one has to the senses, the less they desire sex. Are you following this?" Crow Wolf nodded. Sunwalker continued, "However, since the average person did not know how to meditate, then of course it was difficult for them to silence nature's natural desires. Selfish people often took sex whenever they wanted to, no matter who it hurt. He paused to think how to phrase what he wanted to say next. A wise community teaches their young the awesome responsibility that comes with mating, because a seed of a new being may be planted within a woman during mating. Who will take care of the newborn if the parents are too young? Therefore, with each mating, it is wise to have decided that if a young child is the result, then the ones who mated will take responsibility for the care of that child. And the care of a child is a lifetime commitment. "Whoa," said Crow Wolf. "So mating may mean that one will have a lifetime commitment as a result of their action?" "That would certainly make me think carefully before following the physical urge," he decided. The Sunwalker smiled. "Meditating lessens all sorts of addictions to the senses. Addiction to food, sleep, the desire for power, fear, and so forth." He could see that his son had enough to think about now, so he added, "How about you help me dig this hole?" "Of course, Father," Crow Wolf responded, and began helping Sunwalker. Meanwhile, during Hummingbird's meditation, she saw shadows of figures coming closer and closer to her village. Suddenly, a hawk swooped down and shrieked its call, very near to where she was sitting. "It is time," she heard within. "You know what you have to do." Hummingbird had been having that old dream almost every night lately. The details of what she would do were very clear in it. When she awoke, she quickly went off to calm her mind. However, when her meditation gave her the same message as the dream, she knew that today was the day. Quickly, she returned to the village and gathered what she needed. Keymyu found one of Hummingbird's crow feathers with a shell on it at her sleeping mat as she returned from her morning walk. She noticed a crow feather on Sunwalker's sleeping mat also. Moonbeam, Hawk, and several other people were also carrying Hummingbird's crow feathers. "What's going on?" Keymyu wondered. Moonbeam explained. "Hummingbird left a while ago after telling me where to place her crow feathers." "What do you mean left?" asked Keymyu. "Where is she going?" "I don't know," sighed Hummingbird's sister. "All she said was, sometimes the actions of the one will save the many. What does that mean? I'm so worried." "So am I," said Keymyu. She wondered if the crow feathers were a final goodbye from Hummingbird, but did not want to alarm Moonbeam with that possibility. "Something strange is in the air," she said. "It reminds me of the time when I was almost sacrificed on that great mound." Keymyu stopped suddenly and questioned within, "Am I feeling the energy of the people who were on the great mound that day?" Suddenly she barked, "Where's Sunwalker?" "Somewhere with Crow Wolf, I think," replied Moonbeam, startled by Keymyu's abruptness. "Gather the people quickly. We need to have a council meeting," Keymyu ordered with an urgency which was unlike her usual manner. Moonbeam got Hawk to help her find the people of the council. They found everyone but Laughing Wolf and Hummingbird. Keymyu attempted to explain as calmly as she could what she sensed might be coming. Meanwhile, Laughing Wolf felt there was something strange in the way Hummingbird was almost sneaking around the village this morning. He watched her go in and out of dwellings, looking around to see if anyone saw her. His keen sense of knowing that something was needed before it happened caused him to follow her from a distance. She came to a ridge that had a deep drop and then disappeared over the edge. What is she doing? He wondered, and went to the edge of the ridge to find her. However, Hummingbird was nowhere in sight, and the cliff was too steep to climb down. Suddenly, he noticed a small patch of Hummingbird's cape caught on a bush over the edge of the cliff. Oh no, Hummingbird, Wolf cried and fell to his knees. Back to Raven. When Raven saw how large Keymyu's community was in this glimmering valley, she decided that a small group of men would not be strong enough to retrieve the feathers. She would have to take all the guards and then capture someone valuable in exchange for the sacred feathers. How would she surprise them? That was the question. However, when Raven returned to that village with all her guards, there were only a few people wandering in the central area. She wondered, where did all the people go? Her old ruthlessness about getting the feathers had returned. Keymyu had emptied their village, leaving only her, Moonbeam, Hawk, Sunwalker, and Crowwolf behind. She told the people where they needed to go for safety. She and these 4 people were gathering all the sacred items they used for ceremony. They were completely surprised when Raven and her guards surrounded them, and they were outnumbered 10 to 1. Keymyu scolded herself. Why did she not keep the men with them while gathering the sacred items? But she remembered how Sunwalker thought that the men should stay with the rest of the community to protect them. He probably thought her concerns were a false alarm. Raven suddenly grabbed the pregnant Moonbeam and pointed a sharp knife at her large belly, which held the soon-to-arrive baby. Hawk instinctively lunged for Raven, but was beaten down by several men. Sunwalker tried to assist with kicks, but was also stopped by more men than he could handle. Keymyu spoke up to stop this bloodshed. What do you want? She asked, already knowing the answer and wishing that it was not right there with them. The sacred feathers, sneered Raven, as she handed her knife and Moonbeam over to one of her men. Then she suddenly began rummaging through the containers the group had been carrying, and came upon the special container that she recognized as the holder of the sacred feathers. Ah, she sighed. It looks as though I have arrived just in time. But when she opened the container, it was empty. So she threw it down on the ground. Keymyu instantly bent over, picked it up, and when she looked inside, was shocked. It was empty. The feathers, she exclaimed. Where are they? Sunwalker and Crowwolf quickly looked inside the container. They looked at each other, then at Keymyu. All 3 suddenly understood Hummingbird's disappearance. Raven discerned that they knew something they were not telling her. She grabbed a guard's knife and held it against Keymyu's throat. Then she sliced Keymyu's neck so blood began to trickle down, to show that she meant business. Hummingbird, Crowwolf spoke up. No, shouted Sunwalker. Yes, answered Crowwolf. We can tell you who took the feathers, but not where she is. She left the village early this morning. Is that all you can tell me? Raven demanded, drawing blood again from Keymyu's throat. Yes, Crowwolf said emphatically, and Raven could tell this young boy was too frightened to lie. Guards, Raven commanded, search the area, but not for a whole group of footprints. Just a single pair of footprints, small, a woman's size. Tie these 5 up first. The guards tied the captives and sat them down. It was not long before someone yelled from the distance, A woman going this way! Come quickly! Raven had her men force the captives to come also. They made their way to a clearing where the earth sloped down and ended in a steep cliff. There at the edge of the cliff stood a woman with reddish hair. Her cape blew in the wind, and she held a torch with fire in her hand. "Mother!" Crowwolf shouted, as he watched Hummingbird struggle to keep her balance on the edge of the cliff. Just then, Hummingbird called out, "If my people cannot keep the feathers, then no one can have them. I will not allow the sacred feathers to be misused by anyone with selfish motives." With those last words, Hummingbird quickly pulled out the sacred feathers and lit them with a torch. The fire also caught her cape, blowing in the wind, and she screamed as she disappeared over the edge of the cliff. "Hummingbird!" screamed Moonbeam, her sister, as she kicked the guard in his groin and raced to the edge of the cliff. By the time everyone arrived at the edge, only the burning cape could be seen at the bottom. Moonbeam fell on the ground, sobbing hysterically, and Hawk tried to comfort her the best he could with his hands tied. Sunwalker used a sharp rock to free himself, and then freed Crowwolf and Keymyu. Crowwolf then freed Hawk and Moonbeam. Sunwalker comforted Keymyu. He wanted to make sure the cuts on her throat were not serious. Raven stood looking over the cliff, feeling numb and in a daze. All her dreams and hopes had gone over that ledge in a blaze of fire. Her guards followed her as she returned back to her people in the mountains with an empty heart. The people who had the feathers were of no interest to her now, since they no longer had the feathers. Meanwhile, Brave One was watching and was in shock and dismay. How was he going to take over without the sacred feathers for power and authority? His only hope was to persuade the former guards that he could give them more than Raven could give them. So he followed Raven and her men back to their community in the mountains. "I will watch and wait for just the right opportunity," he decided. From a ledge on the side of the steep cliff, Laughing Wolf smiled. "You were very convincing." And Hummingbird sighed in relief. "And it was a good thing you were here to make sure I landed on this ledge." "The burning cape singed your hair," commented Laughing Wolf. "I did not like that part of the plan. It was very risky." "But I had to make them believe that the sacred feathers were gone," emphasized Hummingbird. "Otherwise, those people could continue to hunt us down, trying to capture the feathers." "I do not think you would have landed on this ledge without me grabbing you." Wolf kept shaking his head, glad the drama was over. "You always have a knack of being there when people need you," said Hummingbird. "I'm glad you followed me and offered your help once I showed you that I had not fallen off the cliff." She smiled and then added, "How long do you think we need to stay here before it will be safe to let our people know what I really did?" "Better wait a few days," said Wolf, "and then I will sneak out and make sure all the enemy has gone." Hummingbird agreed and sat down next to the food supplies she had stored in this alcove. "I hope Moonbeam will forgive me for not telling her what I was going to do." Wolf asked, "What about your son, Crowwolf? How will he take your death?" "I don't know," Hummingbird replied. "I'll send him some thoughts that I'm still alive." So she centered her mind and went into the realm where all souls meet, back to Crowwolf. Crowwolf was in a fog after he freed Hawk and Moonbeam. His mother had often said to him that giving one's life for one's people was one of the greatest gifts to share. But he did not realize she would sacrifice herself like she did. He told his father, Sunwalker, that he wanted to go off and be by himself for a short while. Sunwalker did not know if that was such a good idea after what had just happened. but his son had turned and left before he could respond. Keymyu grabbed Sunwalker's arm and asked him to help her and Hawk lift Moonbeam. The pains in Moonbeam's belly were getting stronger. Perhaps giving birth will take Moonbeam's mind off her sister's death, Keymyu hoped. Sunwalker was torn between following his son or helping take care of this screaming pregnant woman. He knew that Moonbeam needed him more right now, so he helped carry her back to the village. Then he went to bring the rest of the village back so the woman could help Moonbeam with her birthing. Crow Wolf was far away by the time Moonbeam gave birth. He had started traveling north and kept walking and walking. The sun was setting before he had to sit down because his legs ached so much. Crow Wolf picked some nuts and berries nearby and then laid down, placing the hawk feather case on his chest for comfort. He had no more tears to cry. They nearly blinded him as he tried to walk that day. The feathers on his chest gave off a surge of energy. Crow Wolf decided to open his satchel and take them out. "The sacred feathers!" he screamed. "So you didn't burn them after all, Mother. You must have used my hawk feathers, which look like these, from a distance. Then maybe you really didn't fall over the cliff." He remembered that all he saw was his mother's cape burning at the bottom of the cliff. "Mother," he found himself laughing and crying at the same time. Then he remembered to thank the hawk for offering its feathers. "I am sorry that we burned your fine feathers, Hawk Spirit. Thank you for your sacrifice for our people." A gray wolf caught his attention as it appeared from behind some trees. When Crow Wolf followed his gaze, he saw a crow sitting in a tree. "My two companions," sighed Crow Wolf. "You are always there when I need you." The crow flew north, and the wolf followed. Crow Wolf hobbled around a corner after them. There he saw the wolf standing by a dead deer. The wolf then disappeared into the woods, and Crow Wolf thanked the deer for the nourishment it provided. "I will make sure to leave some food for you, Wolf and Crow," Crow Wolf said in his thoughts. An alcove in the rocks provided a good place for Crow Wolf to sleep. He knew that the wolf would stand guard while he rested. "Mother," he sighed as he fell off to sleep. What's happened to Raven? Let's find out. Raven could not eat or sleep. You must eat," pleaded Gentle Breeze, concerned how gray Raven's skin looked. "There's no reason to live," sighed Raven. "What do you mean? We need you. You are our medicine woman and leader." Gentle Breeze put a crystal on Raven's forehead and then on her heart. "May the pulse you feel from this open your desire to live," prayed Gentle Breeze. Raven's eyes opened wide. She took the crystal from Gentle Breeze's hand and placed it on her forehead again. "I can see the cave where the crystals are," she explained. "I need to go there for some reason." Raven sat up. "Would you bring me some broth? I need some nourishment before I go." "Gladly," smiled Gentle Breeze. She was happy to see some life come back into Raven's eyes. After eating and packing some things for the journey, Raven headed off for the cave where the young boy had found the crystals. However, she did not realize that someone was following her. The opening of the cave was not very big, but after a short tunnel, it expanded into a large area. A crack between two rocks supported her torch. She closed her eyes and began focusing on her breath. Her mind seemed to clear easily here. She felt peace for the first time in a long time. There was a rumbling noise in the distance. Could that be thunder, she thought? She did not remember seeing any storm clouds in the sky on her way there. Suddenly, a large crash jolted her eyes open, and stones began to cascade down from the direction of the cave entrance. Raven grabbed her torch and raced to the entrance to see what was happening. It was completely closed. No sunlight could be seen. Panic filled her mind. What happened? Am I trapped in here? How will I get out of here? How could the opening of the cave have closed? Slowly, she worked her way back to the larger area and then began to explore every passageway she could find. Please don't let my torch go out, she prayed. After what seemed like a long time, she explored the last passageway, but there was no exit to be found. Great Spirit, Raven pleaded, do not let me die this way. Show me a way out of here. She sat down in an area where the crystals were the most prevalent and closed her eyes and tried to calm her mind. Memories of standing in the wind came to her. She was holding the colorful medicine feathers high, and the people in her village were singing tones that made her feel like she was floating. Then she remembered the vision she had as a young girl, in which she was leading people with feathers in her hand. Could the feathers that gentle breeze gave me be the feathers in my vision, she wondered? Was that my destiny, to be with the people I'm with now, instead of with the sacred feathers? She then remembered how good it felt to be appreciated and honored by her new village. Gentle Breeze had become the nurturing mother she had never had, because her mother died when she was a baby. Even the guards appreciated her more in this new village. They had learned to respect her advice because she did not have to scheme and manipulate the way she did when Feathered Trumpet was around. The energy of the crystals were allowing her to look at her life as an observer and see the motives behind all the decisions and actions she had made. She did not like observing the ruthlessness part of herself, such as when she drew blood from Keymyu's throat to get information about the sacred feathers. She could feel Keymyu's pain as though it were her own pain. Then she remembered the pain of despair she felt when the sacred feathers went up in flames. She suddenly realized that she had focused so hard on getting the sacred feathers that when they were gone, she had no reason left to live, or so she thought. I missed a more important reason to live, she exclaimed. The love from people who feel like family is far more fulfilling than obtaining an object. What you gave was what you received, she heard in her mind. She saw that whenever she gave anger, she experienced the result of that anger within herself. When she gave healing, she experienced the positive energy of healing within herself. What I gave is what I received, she realized. The air was getting thinner in the cave, and Raven was feeling drowsy. She wrapped herself in her blanket and curled up to get warm. Soon she fell asleep. What you give is what you receive, echoed in her mind. We finished part 10. What's going to happen to Raven and all the communities and people that the sacred feathers touched? You ready for part 11? Thank you for continuing to watch and sharing this with others. Blessings, peace, love, and I share my love with you. Namaste.